Hi, it's your friend Honor, and we're back at the Honor Robbins Podcast, and today I have an expert in podcasts. This is Sam Podcast. He has his own podcast where he talks about podcasts. He's a leading expert in podcasts, and today he's going to change your life with his opinions and facts and research about podcasts. Sam, what do you think about podcasts?
I hate this podcast.
Welcome to Podpodcastcast.
Yay! Hello and welcome to Podpodcastcast. It's a podcast where we talk about other podcasts. I'm Sam.
And I'm Honor.
You may not have been able to hear Honor because, as Honor was saying, that they were covered up by a cat walking across their microphone.
Yeah, that might have been my most normal and I'm Honor in a while because I was too busy thinking about my cat to, try to be weird. I already was weird in the opening.
Well, I think this might be a very normal episode for us.
Yeah.
We've had some weird podcasts on in the past. We've had the telepathy tapes. We've had some strange audio dramas. But today, it's a return to normalcy, okay? It's what are the normal folk of the US of A listening to? And they're listening to the Mel Robbins Podcast. Honor, before we started listening to this, did you know much about the Mel Robbins Podcast?
I did not know about the Mel Robbins Podcast. Once I started listening to it, I pulled up an ep on YouTube to just be in the background, but I saw 2 seconds of her set and her book was on the shelf in the background. And so I was like, oh, she's the just let them theory lady. Okay. And that's all I know.
I think that's a great place to start, and that's where I think a lot of people will be starting from. If you don't know what Honor's talking about, there's a book called The Let Them Theory, written by Mel Robbins, and it is on YouTube in the background of every shot that she is in, or almost everyone. It's on the little shelf behind her.
Mm-hmm.
But the podcast, the Mel Robbins Podcast, it's set up like an interview podcast, but it's a self-help show. I mean, that's what it is.
Yep.
It is about getting your life right, getting your money right, getting your love right, eating healthy. It's just about, if you've ever seen a motivational speech on YouTube, it's that, but it's a podcast.
And a million of them.
And a million of them. There's a lot of episodes. Did you look at how many episodes there were?
There's 350 and change.
Yeah, I think that's right. It honestly hasn't been going on that long. I think it started.
She said she put out it was either 106 or 109 episodes in 2025.
God bless. That is a lot.
It's insane.
That is
and
a
these
lot.
aren't
That's
short
great.
episodes.
No, that was actually, they're usually an hour plus, hour 30.
Yeah.
Rarely to the 2 hour mark, but it's usually around, I would say around the hour 30 mark. Yeah. And so I think it's a little daunting to get into if you're not, I think it's, if you just want to try it, if you just want to sample it, it's a little much, but I think a lot of people, I don't know, there's honestly, in the way that I feel like TikToks are getting shorter,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's not true. Some of them are getting longer, but there's a trend of making content short. Podcasts just feel like they're getting longer.
Yes.
It feels like they're just longer podcasts.
This is a trend. It is a trend in both directions in media right now in a way that's really interesting, where short form content is getting shorter and shorter and long form content is getting longer and longer, which is fascinating.
Yeah. So if you like Mel Robbins, that could be good for you. So kind of the format of the pod is that every episode, Mel starts off by greeting you, gives you an introduction to the person that she's going to be talking to that day, like what are their credentials, what are they going to talk about, what's important for you, and then gets into the conversation. It interviews the person, asks them questions. It's like if they have a new book, like, hey, what's this book about? But usually it's framed around how can this improve your life? I think almost several of the episodes that I listened to started with this question really explicitly, like, how is what you're about to tell me, Mel Robbins, going to improve the life of the listener? And that's kind of the whole orientation of the podcast. In truth, it reminded me a lot of the Huberman Lab podcast I reviewed back in October and November, although that comes from a little more of a science communication angle. Like, it's in some sense it's a kind of a self-help podcast, but it's a lot more of like what's just going on in, let's talk to usually a scientific expert, and let's just see what they've got going on and what's interesting about that.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Robbins is much more about like really trying to improve your life, which it seems like a lot of people like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Honor, did you clock that this was a self-help podcast right away? Because it took me a little bit to understand what exactly the bit was.
No, it was immediate.
Okay.
Like, especially because I was scrolling through to try to, just pick an episode. And I don't know if... So I would pull up the podcast on YouTube and just leave it in the background that way. You, I don't think, did that, because we did talk about the fact right before the mic started rolling that her intros and stuff on YouTube are different than they are on other platforms. So I wonder if her titles are also different, but it's all like what I wish I knew in my 20s, the 9 things you need to start doing today to be more productive, etc., etc. Extremely self-helpy.
For sure. Yeah. Like, I think that's a great thing to point out. Like, this is kind of an interview podcast, but unlike most interview podcasts, the name of the guest is not in the title of the episode.
No.
So they had like someone on that does like cybersecurity stuff. The name of the episode is #1 Cybersecurity Expert Reveals 5 Ways to Protect Yourself Online, starting tonight. Like it does read like a kind of YouTube clickbaity title. It doesn't even mention the person.
They're all extremely clickbaity.
Yes.
Other thing to point out. #1, it's all pretty obviously self-help. At least it was to me. #2, it's all the most clickbaity thing you've ever seen.
Although I will say, I don't know that it's clickbait in that the content is very different from the title. But the content is set up in such a way to make it not necessarily sensational.
They're baiting clicks. They're being like, here's how you can fix your life now. And actually, like, you could interpret it that way, but I think the actual meat of these episodes is just like an expert in a topic talking about that topic, and then Mel Robbins is like the packaging of it is the self-help thing that is then taken to this extreme to be like, you need to click this now so that you won't waste your next decade of your life.
Right.
It's just like a dietitian talking about, like, yeah, here's the research I've done on what foods are really good for you. And does that make sense?
It does. I just wanted to highlight that I don't feel like the content is misrepresented by the title, but the whole product is set up in such a way that to get clicks. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, she is still talking to that dietitian, and she's like, all right, now tell us about your new plan and how that will lead to thinner waistlines and bigger brains. Or like not, just that, but I would love that diet, the top heavy diet.
Yeah. The top heavy diet.
No one's
really
talking about
funny.
how I can gain brain weight, okay? That's what I want.
That's a t-shirt.
Gain. Yeah, so, but I think the whole thing is set up kind of in that way to be like, they're bringing on people kind of like you said, like, sure, this is an expert, but we're bringing them on because we know that this will get clicks because someone wants, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, this is how I get my financial life in order. Yeah. This guy has thoughts on that, and we're going to present that into the most eye-catching way, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So I heard about this podcast. I'd seen it around for a while because, I look at what podcasts are popular, but I'd never listened to it. And I never really knew what it was until recently my mom was like, I was on the TV and I saw that there was a lady talking about her podcast and her book. Have you heard of this book, The Let Them Theory? And I was like, no, but I know that it exists. Like, what's going on here? And I was like, this is a big podcast. I should see what's going on. So I started listening to the Mel Robbins podcast. And I was like, okay, I listened to this and I want to talk about my thoughts a little bit later, but I was like, this feels a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want more context for who Mel Robbins is, right? Because if you just start listening to this podcast, you know nothing about her, right? I mean, she opens every episode with, "Hey, it's your friend Mel," and there's like no other credential, you know?
Yeah.
I think in some sense it's already assumed that you know who Mel Robbins is, or that is like unimportant, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like most of these episodes isn't Mel Robbins giving advice, it's like somebody else, right? So she doesn't really need to establish her credentials. She needs to kind of be like the everyman, kind of analyzing like what her role is on this podcast, because she's like the audience surrogate when she's talking to these people, being like, "What? No, is that the key to happiness?"
Yeah.
With whatever, you know, guru she's talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, but who is Mel Robbins? Like, the idea of a self-help podcast isn't unique. You know, what separates her from, I was going to say Andrew Tate, but that feels like a bad comparison. I've never listened to his podcast. We should listen to the Andrew Tate podcast.
Oh, boy.
I just want to know. You know what I mean? I just...
Ooh. Sure, man.
Like,
if you want to...
It feels like a... You know, let's plumb the depths. What are the
Yeah.
worst podcasts by the worst people? I think we should, you know, investigate.
Yeah. Let's poison our minds.
I think that I would love a podcast by the Liver King. Genuinely, I think I'd be like, this guy has some good ideas. I should eat just meat and nothing else.
Yeah.
Anna, do you know who the Liver King is?
No, but you've said enough. I know what's going on.
Oh, terrible. Well, we'll have to talk about it. Well, I'll have to convert you over to eating raw meat. But so...
That won't be difficult to convert me. You know how I am.
You're not eating raw meat. Don't lie to the audience and say that you're like a feral wolf.
No, but I love to eat as much meat as possible in my diet in a way that is not healthy. Let me just clarify. It's not like good or a power move.
I think the Liver King would change your mind. I don't know if he has a podcast, but if he does, we should listen to that. That would be delightful.
Yeah. We'll figure that out.
So I wanted more context on who Mel Robbins is, and my girlfriend recommended me some episodes of other podcasts talking about Mel Robbins, specifically an episode of Good Noticing, formerly the Celebrity Memoir Book Club, and an episode of If Books Could Kill. And so Good Noticing is like a pop culture podcast, and If Books Could Kill is like it's a book club podcast focusing on books that the hosts think are bad for society.
That's awesome.
Like kind of like they think are trashy or not researched, but have still made their ideas like into the like mainstream kind
like
of
Twilight.
zeitgeist. Well, no, like Freakonomics is a book that is about like, hey, look at all these interesting economic phenomenon and how things behave in unexpected ways. But it can be explained very well by economics. But then they proceed to talk about the book and they're like, actually, this is one research paper that like 2 years later like had a bunch of flaws in it. And we wrote a chapter about this, you know, and like we wrote a chapter about how actually like racial discrimination, you know, if you just see someone and they're part of a racial group and you make some assumptions based off that, that's fine actually. And they're like, no, that's just being prejudiced. Like I don't think you can just say no, but it's like it's Freakonomics. Anyway. So they talk about a lot of books, and so they talk about the Let Them theory. And so I listened to both of these podcasts, and I think they were very helpful in getting some context for who Mel Robbins is. So, Anna, I'm going to tell you who Mel Robbins is, and I'm going to lean it on those sources heavily. And I think it's fascinating.
I'm intrigued.
So, Mel Robbins is like 57 years old. She's from Middle America somewhere, Michigan, I think. She went to college out east and then became a lawyer. She was a public defender in Manhattan. Then the next period of her life seems to be defined by really constant career switches. So she does a bunch of things. She like is at one point like a legal correspondent for CNN. She tries like a bunch of different jobs. And eventually she kind of starts this career as so she gets a life coach, right? To coach her through her life and to be like, okay, you know, this is how you should do things, right? And then that life coach is like, you know what, Mel, I think you could be a really good life coach.
Huh.
Yeah. And so Mel's like, that's a great idea. And that's what she starts to do. Now, I know it sounds like an LLM and MLM, that one. Sounds like a pyramid scheme.
It does.
And maybe it is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think life coaching in general, it's kind of a scam.
Yeah, okay. So I think we have similar feelings on this.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to tip my hand too much.
Like, we've just decided there are some people who are better at life than other people.
And I feel like this is very Midwestern of me, but I think almost everyone feels this way. It's like, okay, but who are you to tell me anything about my life?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yeah. It's not even like, oh, I know about, food. I'm a dietitian. It's, I just know how to do life. What? Who do you think
I know how to stop procrastinating. Like, yeah.
I can fix everything. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't even exactly know what a life coach does, in truth. So if, listener, if you're a life coach and you're like, they're ruined, they're not representing my field, that's fine. Email in. I would love to hear some thoughts on what it means to be a life coach.
You have to be supporting alienating a new group. That's what our podcast is based on. Don't you remember?
No, absolutely.
This is your
and that is, I wholeheartedly believe that Podpodcastcast is about building community through exclusion. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
We just keep cutting people out until eventually,
in mostly arbitrary groups.
Yeah. Ideally funny ways.
Yeah.
Not serious ways. But no, before we cut out life coaches, which I'm fine to do, by the way, I just want to know, I would love to hear from them. I would love to hear their thoughts and then tell them that their thoughts are bad. That's what I would like. Yeah, because I don't really know what it means to be a life coach. I'll accept help from a therapist, maybe. I mean, I don't have problems, so I probably won't do that. But
okay, yeah.
But I don't really know what it takes or why one would hire a life coach. But people start doing that for Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
She moves to Boston with her husband, and she has a semi-successful career, it seems, for life coaching. So she starts to coach people that are like high up executives. She has some like notable clients. She in 2007 gets interviewed for, I forget the publication, some magazine or newspaper, about her life, her career as a life coach and what's it means to coach these very powerful people. And so she's kind of churning along for a while. But so she publishes a book, I think early 2000s. So it's a self-help book, something along the lines of Stop Saying You're Fine. But it also, during this time, she gets into financial straits. Her husband that she met in Manhattan was like a commodities trader, right? He's a finance guy. But when they move out to Boston, he opens a pizza place or several pizza places. I'm not exactly sure on the number. Apparently the pizza place does not go well. But even beyond that, as Claire from Good Noticings points out, if you're interested in Mel Robbins, I would say go listen to the Good Noticings podcast episode on this, because they're going to talk about a lot more stuff that I don't talk about here. But also, Claire from that podcast kind of seemed to have got a little obsessed and did a lot of really good research on this. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm referencing. You should go check that out if you want to know more. But Mel is also really trying to chase success as a life coach, right? She has like a radio show at some point, I think, with SiriusXM. She's taking like voice coaching lessons to improve her voice, something. She's kind of flying all over the place. She's spending a lot of money she doesn't have.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, to like be a life coach. Apparently she's not getting paid very much to be people's life coach. Like these.
Aren't you supposed to be sort of good at managing this kind of thing if you're a life coach?
Okay. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with anyone giving advice is like, if you can't do the thing you're telling me to do, I don't believe you.
Exactly. Like, don't tell me if you can't teach about, making wise economic decisions. For sure.
I mean, God bless if you're a couples counselor, but if you're divorced,
yeah. But maybe I do trust you because you knew to not stay in your unhappy marriage.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to you because I want to stay in my unhappy marriage. Okay, I want you to tell me how to stay in this unhappy marriage.
Okay, yeah.
So Mel is doing all this stuff. She does have an unhappy marriage because her husband's an alcoholic. They're in several $100,000 in debt. And then in 2011, all that changes when she goes to a TEDx talk, which that's awesome. I love that it's her springboard into like internet fame is TEDx, which in case you're not curious, TED, the like speaking, what do you even call it? Event.
Yeah.
Like the big public speaking event that has a lot of videos online. TEDx, just anyone can do that if they ask. I think those are the rules. Anyway, so she goes to an independently organized TED event and she talks. And in it, she pitches this idea of the 5-second rule. And the 5-second rule is before you like make any decision, you just like count down from 5, and you're like, okay, is this the decision I want to make? Is this like bad? Am I being rash? Am I being overly emotional? And so this video from this talk gets posted online, does very well. And the 5-second rules turns into a book that she publishes, which is very successful. She, I think, has published another book after that. Then she starts doing like the motivational speaking circuit, like goes around all kinds of places, does in-person speeches. And then, sometime after the pandemic, 2021, I think, maybe 2022, she starts her podcast, the Mel Robbins Podcast. And I think around 2024, she publishes the book, The Let Them Theory, which does very well. I mean, it's another self-help book. The whole premise of the book is that basically your life will be better if you just don't care what people do. Like it's
pretty much.
That's the whole bit. It's like, I don't know, several hundred pages of her just being like, is somebody doing something you don't like? Let them. Just don't care. I mean, yeah. And so this book does tremendously well. It's, been a huge hit, sold a bunch of copies, and now is now. And she's doing the podcast and selling the book. She will do ads for her book in the podcast. Yeah. And I am really glad that I did this research or that I learned more about it because it all started to make sense to me, right? Okay. So when I listened to the Mel Robbins podcast for like the first time, one of the things, this is going to be my big takeaway. Okay, yeah. Intrigued to hear what you thought. One of the things that I noticed like right away that felt so strange to me and why I wanted to do all this research is that Mel Robbins feels incredibly inauthentic. Yes. It feels like there's not a real person in this room. She feels like she has the fakest reactions I've ever heard. Yes. I'm so glad. Like she has a set of pre-programmed response and she's got buttons she's pressing in her brain to just say different versions of, that's the best advice I've ever heard 1 million times. Yes, absolutely. Just her being like, wow. Now, I listened to 3 episodes. And if I counted how many times across those only 3 episodes I heard her say, this might be one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard, or a variation on that, genuinely more than on both my hands. Well, okay. And she's going to do that every episode. Yes. I listened to 4.5 episodes, right? Mm-hmm. And it is every episode. That is exactly what she's going to do. I read some reviews, like star reviews on the Apple Podcast page for the Mel Robbins Podcast. And someone did describe her as like she's a super fan of everything. Yes. And that's so true. Every person that comes on is like a world-renowned expert and that she's been a fan of their work. Yeah. And every time they say something, it's not literally every time, but at least once an episode, she's like, wow, okay. Did you get that? Turns to camera. Did you get that? Yes, that exact like it's line. Blue's Clues? That exact I just want to rephrase that. That was amazing. Yes. It's so bad. And I think this background makes that make way more sense. Because So we've listened to a lot of podcasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Mel Robbins, I want to compare her to Joe Rogan, to the Joe Rogan podcast, right?
Yeah.
Superficially, they look very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a one-on-one interview. It's usually with someone interesting.
There's a lot of, like, how to fix your life angle, or, like, things you should be doing, I think.
Yeah, I think there's some of that. There are many differences, but one of the big differences, I would say, is that Joe Rogan, when he's interviewing someone, it seems like he personally is really interested. Like, there's sometimes where I'm aware that he's making a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, we got to maybe move on to the next bit, or like, hey, I've got to try to, make this more interesting, or kind of do something here. But he always feels like he's genuinely involved in the conversation.
Yeah.
Mel Robbins, I don't know. Her personally, she does not feel that way.
She's clip
Mel
farming,
Robbins,
dude.
That is so true.
She's clip farming.
She's out in the fields, dude. She's working day and night.
%.
She's wiping her brow. She's putting her hoe into the ground and harvesting these clips from the earth and soil.
Yes.
Yes. And if you look at her YouTube, I mean, there's lots of clips.
She's
lots
clip
of clips
farming.
for you to look at.
She starts every episode with a bunch of clips, at least on YouTube. It's this super dramatic montage of clips of being like, here's how you can change everything. And, like, it has her reactions in it that are like, oh my gosh, that's the craziest thing, to, like, really make you want to be like, oh, whoa, what could have made her so shocked? But it's anything. Anything could have made her have that reaction.
It is so inconsequential. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Does not.
Yeah, a brief tangent. Unlike most podcasts, the audio version and the YouTube version are substantially different.
Yeah.
The content, the meat of the sandwich is mostly the same. But, like, the intro is really different, right? So, like, on YouTube, it's these clips. If you're just listening to audio podcast, it's not. It's her hyping up the guest, ad break, her hyping up the guest, interview.
Huh. She still has, like, her hyping up the guest after all the clips, but it sounds like it's not as long, and also doesn't have the same ad break.
Yeah, it is really weird because she basically says the same things twice, but there's an ad break in the middle.
Yeah, she does kind of do that, where she'll do, because she will even have it. I'm so baffled by why she starts episodes like this. She has super short clip montage that's like 1.5 minutes long, and then longer clip montage that often has the same moments in it, but is just like several minutes instead. And then introducing the guest, and then like actual intro.
It feels really. Also, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Does she, on the YouTube version, because I never watched a YouTube episode all the way through, does she...
The outro is different.
Okay. Does she say that she loves you? She still says she loves you.
She still says that she loves you, and then this is a thing that drives me crazy, and I think, like, I'll talk more about later probably, but really highlight some of the hypocrisy of what she's doing, where she ends every YouTube episode with being like, thanks for watching over on YouTube, guys. Now I know what you're thinking. This is how she frames it. She goes, I know what you're thinking, Mel. I'm looking for my next episode to watch. Here's the next one for you to watch. You're going to love it. I'm going to be there to greet you when you go into it.
Right.
Go
yeah,
press
that's
play. Listen to the next one. And she, like, does the thing where she points out where the little thumbnail will be.
Right.
And that's crazy.
Well, I wanted to ask real quick, does she, while we're on this tangent, does she, for her ad breaks, does she take explicit ad breaks in the YouTube version?
No.
Okay. She does ad breaks in the audio version that I'm sure they cut in later, but she does it in a way that makes it sound like she'll say, like, there's the biggest episode on YouTube is with a guy named Jim Doty. I think it's Jim. He's a doctor, like a professor. And she'll be like, wow, Dr. Doty, that is incredible. I just want to take a second to understand that and compress that. And I also want to take a second, for one, to let our sponsors get a word in here. And
that's
two,
crazy.
I want you, listener, share this around, probably your mom, your sister, your children.
She's always like, share this. And I'm like, girl, You want money so bad.
There we go. Okay, I want to bring this back into the main here, which is...
She wants money so bad, and she wants your clicks and your views.
She, unlike Joe Rogan, who feels like he's really on a one-on-one conversation with someone, she feels like she's at work. When I'm listening to her, I am so aware that this is a professional and that she's doing this as a job. Because it doesn't feel like a real human is there. It feels like someone who's learned, like, okay, this is what I need to do. Like she's a professional. She spent her whole life, trying to understand what people want from self-help content. Like her first self-help book, like Stop Saying You're Fine, didn't go well. And part of it is like, there was this attitude of like, you loser.
Yeah.
Stand up for yourself, you miserable worm.
Yeah.
But then her like later work is more like, hey, I've been there. I understand.
She's taken on that tone hardcore.
That and I think that this is a conscious strategy. I think Mel is a businesswoman. I mean, obviously, but like that's also, as a media personality, that's how it comes across. It comes across to me as very synthetic.
Yes. Because, like, to be clear, I hate any self-help thing that is like, you're just wasting your life. You're pathetic.
Sure,
Get off your... we don't like that either. But the extent to which she takes it in the, like, ending every episode with, in case anyone hasn't told you today, I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm like, that's nothing. That is just you saying words. You don't mean that. You don't know me. I don't know you. What's going on?
And
to where it's like, it's a strategy. Yeah. It's to like make,
100%.
Especially there is, I think it plays into some of what can be like almost, it feels extreme to say, but predatory about self-help content is that it's all targeting people who are struggling.
Yes, that is a great...
Like, that's the target audience. You're going for vulnerable people who want to hear, like, here's the easy fix for my life because I'm really struggling financially or mentally or whatever the thing is. Here's the quick fix. Here's people telling me I can do it. Here's people telling me everyone goes through this. It's fine. Like, it's not difficult to get into that and be like, oh, I see the strategy here for how I can get those people to give me lots of clicks and lots of money.
It is, I think, somewhat similar to how I think that I'm like, yeah, I could make a cult. Like, I see how it works,
It's really cultish. I wasn't going to say it, but it is.
Well, I don't know if I feel that strongly, but what I do definitely feel is
it has a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I think Mel is... I'm always reticent to assume malice, but whether she's doing it explicitly in her own mind, I think the Mel Robbins podcast leans in to creating a parasocial relationship with the listener in a intense way, right?
Yeah.
Like, hello, it's your friend Mel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how she identifies herself, right?
She's talking to the listener constantly.
Yes. Which, again, really feels strangely inauthentic because we don't do that when we're having conversations. Like, and I think that's part of what people like about podcasts is it does feel like you are having conversations with your friends.
Yeah.
But they're just like kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, which you can even like, we'll be like, listener, if you have a strong opinion on the thing that we're talking about, email us.
Yeah.
Let us know. Life coaches listening, whatever. But you can do that without being like, my friend who I'm looking in the eyes and I love you and I'm proud of you.
We're not, okay, but we're also not.
That's not real at all.
We're also not hitting it Dora style where we're saying,
no.
Did you listen to this podcast?
No.
Did you hear that?
You can just be like, hey, people listening to this podcast instead of being like making a fake connection.
Yes. Well, and so I think she leans into the parasocial relationship with saying, I'm your friend Mel. She ends every podcast with saying, I love you.
Yeah.
And she also says, thanks for being part of the Mel Robbins podcast family.
Yeah, that's always a wild move.
It's
to call your audience a family.
And it's not. And that's okay. And from other people, I would be like, all of these things would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be okay if I felt like Mel Robbins was a different person, right? Like, there's there's some people in this world, like old ladies or hippies or whatever, and they're like, if they're like, hey,
if it felt authentic. Yeah, because I think you even said earlier, like, it feels like she's a super fan of everything, and there are people for whom that's their personality, is they're just really excited about all the things that they're going to engage with and talk about, but it feels real. It does not feel real from her.
Right. Yes. She does not seem like the person in her normal life that would be like, we're all just one big happy family. I love ya. Good to see ya. No, she doesn't like, and again, I don't know Mel Robbins. But that is, as a consumer of the content of this,
from what we can
entertainment, from this information source, that's how it feels. Also wanted to go back to something that you mentioned, which is like, I don't know, you mentioned how self-help can feel kind of predatory. Mm-hmm. And, okay, I have some feelings about self-help. Mm-hmm. I feel like myself doesn't need to be helped, and so I'm like, okay, I don't really care what you have to say, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody does need to read a book about how to have a better romantic relationship with their spouse or partner or whatever, or to get their money in order, and they read a book and it helps them and improves their life, then like I'm fine with that. I don't feel the need to be like, you did it in a wrong way. But I do think that, like you kind of said, telling someone every time, hey, here's this new thing that you can fix. Here's this new way to change this thing about yourself. It reminded me of another review that I read on Apple Podcasts for the Mel Robbins podcast that was like, I can't listen to this anymore because every time I tune in, I find a new thing that is wrong about myself that I need to change, and it's just too overwhelming.
Yep.
And I think, a lot of people relate to that, and I think that that would be me. Like, I would do that.
It's always like, here's the 5 things you need to change today.
Yeah.
Which is like, no, like, you're okay. Like, yeah, there's probably things you can improve, but like, just take it a step at a time. You're all right.
I would be really interested to know at what rate, like, self-help podcast audience members, at what rate they attrit compared to other podcasts. Like, does this kind of content churn through listeners more than others? Or does it have a really strong fan base that's like, oh, I do always want to hear the next thing? Because the other thing we have to grapple with here is that this podcast feels weird to us because it feels inauthentic. But there are a lot of people.
But it's popular.
That like it. And I want to understand that angle to this.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have similar feelings to you on self-help, and it's something that I was trying to figure out how to articulate before this episode, because it is like, if someone is struggling with their, like, say they're stuck in their romantic relationship, and they're like, I really want to hear, like, experts who have done research on, like, what helps romantic relationships out talk about what tips they might have. Like, okay, yeah, sure. We're a communal species, we should be sharing our knowledge, etc., etc.
Sure.
But it becomes very different when, like I said, when there's that attitude of like every week coming out with something that's like, here's the 5 things that you need to change about what you're doing today. And I think just the simplest way to say it is this: Mel Robbins has her own protein shake line.
Okay. Can we talk about
people, this? It's the same stuff. Like, when you start getting into the people who are selling multivitamins and supplements and stuff, they're coming up with some new little potion that they need to sell you, and they need to convince you that you need. Like, that is no longer, oh, I'm an expert in whatever thing, and, like, I want to share my knowledge with people so they can sort of think about that, change their perspective, whatever. You're selling something.
Yes.
Mel Robbins has things to sell.
Mel Robbins does have things to sell. So I did want to talk about this. So I was listening to this episode. I forget. It's with a PhD doctor. I forget, like in nutrition sciences. Maybe it's MD doctor. Anyway, but I think this is the one you're talking about, where she's a professor at like a big college, and she's got this protocol where she's like, okay, this is how much protein you need to eat. This is how much you need to eat these fibers, and you need to eat these things, and you have a good diet. And so I was listening to this episode, and then towards maybe the last third of the episode, they have this segment where Mel Robbins is bringing on foods, and it's like, doctor, is this good? And the doctor's like, yeah, that one's fine. Oh, that one's great. Oh, this one's bad, right? And then they just casually slip in like, what about this protein shake? And the doctor's like, this protein shake, this hits hard. And it's like, oh, that's super cool. Oh, just like a little note, I, Mel Robbins, co-own this protein shake company, and this doctor is on our science board.
Yep.
And it's like,
yeah.
And I was like, what? Wait, what? Did we just really casually mention we just did product placement? Because we also have ads. We also have normal ads.
Yep.
And we have a lot of them. Like sometimes we have 5 consecutive minutes of ads.
Whoa, that's crazy. Those aren't in the YouTube version at all. But she has her product placement.
That is crazy to me. But you know what? I was like, that's so crazy. I guess they just like got together on this one episode to do this. Not true.
Nope.
The cybersecurity lady. Pretty interesting episode about cybersecurity. But really casually brings up like, oh, I have these glasses of a company that I partner with that will stop your face from being like facial recognition technologies won't work because they have like infrared screen filters, whatever. But like almost acting like slides it in, you know, like just a really quick legal disclosure. Like, oh yeah, and this is a company I partner with. Like you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and you have another book. Oh, and, like, and this the nutrition lady, she had like a book that she was trying to sell about this new product protocol. And not only is Mel Robbins' book, The Lethem Theory, in the background of the Mel Robbins shot on like the shelf behind her, but so is this lady's book behind her on her shelf.
Yeah. They're trying to sell you stuff.
Yeah, and it
like that is not coming from a place of I just want to get the knowledge that I think is beneficial to people out there.
Yes.
That has a monetary motivation behind it, and it like just immediately becomes different. Like you're just not operating out of the same place. Your motivation then becomes how can I get more people to click on this, not how can I make sure that people who need to hear this, you know?
Right. And then, you know, either Mel Robbins knows this all consciously, and this is a job for her, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Or like she's like lying to herself. Is like, no, but like somehow these are conflated, that the more money I get, the more I'm helping people.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily true.
It is absolutely at least one of those things. Like, the hypocrisy is just extremely evident when I didn't even know that she had this 5-second rule that you talked about, where before you make a decision, count down from 5, and then at the end of every episode, she stops with, and let me feed you instantly before you can think about it, the next episode of mine you should watch.
Sure.
She's not. Like, you just can't hold both of those things at the same time.
Yeah, and that's why like I don't think Mel Robbins earnestly cares. I mean, maybe she thinks she does, but like I don't.
I think she could think she does, but that doesn't mean that this podcast is actually going to be the most helpful for you. Whether it's intentional or not, her motivations, I would say, are not in the right place. And like, there's going to be hypocrisy and things that, even if she's saying it's all to like help people better their lives, there's things in there that aren't.
Yeah. See, and I don't even know if I would like, I mean, what you brought up was a pretty good example of hypocrisy, but there's like, more broadly, I feel like there's something here that is not quite hypocrisy, but is similar. So like Mel Robbins at the end of, I don't know if she does it on YouTube, but she does it on her like audio podcast. She says, oh, and by the way, quick thing here. It's your friend Mel, and I just got to put in the legal language that the lawyers make me say, which is like, I'm not responsible for anything. Like this is not a replacement for professional advice.
Interesting. I would bet that's in the description of the YouTube videos,
Sure.
but she does not say it out loud, so it is even more hidden.
But what bugs me about that is when she's like, "Oh, this is what the lawyers, write up." You're a lawyer. I know that, and that's why I'm like, I don't know if this is hypocrisy, but it feels inauthentic. It's like you're trying to cover up who you were, and also, and this is something else. So, like another example of going through Mel's life, Mel wrote in the Let Them theory, like how she got started in this whole self-help game, and she starts it with that TEDx talk in 2011. Mm-hmm. That's where she starts it. She says that she was just kind of bumbling her way through life, changing careers all the time. And then she gives this talk. And because at the end of her talk, she couldn't think of what's next to say. So she brings up this 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is in the slides for her talk. It's not like something she just came up with. And she'd also been doing life coaching for many, many years before that. She'd written a book before that.
Yeah.
And and she also, in her Let Them theory book, talks about, we were in so much debt, and kind of subtly implies that it's mostly because of this, her husband's pizza thing. But it seems like it's probably in large part because of how much money she was spending to chase the life coaching dream. So,
yeah,
I think she is conscious of creating a narrative that is intended to work, to sell. That's what it's for, right? Honestly, I think Mel Robbins' story is pretty interesting as I understand it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, honestly, that's interesting. That it's almost like one way to read her story is don't be afraid to invest in yourself, and then you might be successful one day.
Yeah.
Right. If you're willing to take out $800,000 in debt.
Yeah.
But
is that the moral of the story? We should all take out $800,000 in debt.
I think we should just hang around with it. It doesn't matter what you do with it.
Yeah.
But that's not what she wants to sell. I mean, that's not really relatable to people, right? I did this and then I succeeded. Because that's the other thing. She's coming from a place of success.
Yes.
Right. Which is, in some way, establishes credibility in the self-help world, right?
Yeah. But then throughout every episode, she's always... Because she is sort of stepping into that everyman role that we talk about a lot of interview podcasts. That's what the interviewer's doing, is standing in for all the listeners, where she'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I do struggle with that so much. It's you're making a lot of money.
Yes.
Even that doesn't feel authentic.
Well, and I think she knows that. So
yeah.
The most viewed episode on the YouTube was this interview with Dr. I think Jim Doty, and he's it's a neuroscientist guy, and his thing was how do you be happy, and what's manifestation and meditation and these practices for your life. But he's talking about, at one point in the podcast, he's talking about how rich he is. He is I have a Porsche, I have a house, I have all these things. And
that might be helpful.
You could also tell someone is wealthy when they say Porsche instead of Porsche. That's just that's instead of the Let Them theory, that's the Sam Herner Porsche theory. That's just an idea that I have.
I subscribe to that.
Thank you. But I felt Mel kind of jumped in to be we're all starting to hate you, because I think she knows that that's not appealing. She's not going on every episode and being I'm so wealthy, let me tell you how to be wealthy, which I think other influencers do. And that maybe works towards a different demographic. Mel Robbins, I don't know what her numbers are. I'm convinced that it's above 70% women. The way she talks to the audience. She has said that
her audience is majority women.
Yes. The way she talks to the audience is questions she asks are for women. When she says, share this with, she says, your mom and your sister. She'll say other things too. But it's for women. And I would guess probably... It's for women between 30 and 65.
I would agree.
My guess. There's a fair bit of menopause talk. Not every episode, but some of the ones I listen to.
Yeah.
It's just so maybe that braggadocious style would work on a self-help for men, but I think she knows that that's not appealing. And it's more appealing to women. It's more relatable to women to hear a story about like, my husband, he biffed it again and the pizza joint isn't working, you know? Like, I think she's really aware of crafting her own story in a way that I don't know if it is hypocritical, but it feels...
I mean, I think it is, whether it's intentional or not, I'm not sure. Whether it's hypocritical, yes.
Sure. It feels to me very inauthentic. Like she's trying to say, hey, this is who I am. But in some sense, she's playing a character. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not to entertain you. It's to sell. Like that's where it all comes down to.
I mean, she has a call to action so often of like, even the first episode I listened to, I didn't mean for it to be like, I just clicked on one of the episodes, but it ended up being her sort of 2025 best of episode.
Yeah.
And so she had clips from 9 different episodes that, first of all, every time she introed one, she was like, this is one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard. Like, all of them.
They all are, yes.
All of them. And after every single one, she would be like, if you haven't listened to this episode, you have to queue it up next. It's so good. It'll change your life. And I'm like, okay, so call to action, again, give me another click. Or being like, yeah, all the time. She's like, share this with your sister, your mom, your kids, the people you know who are trying to do whatever, your partner. And it's just too often to not be like, she's trying to sell stuff. She's trying to make money. She's trying to get her numbers up.
Right. It's not how a real person talks or communicates. It's someone who has learned marketing or communication strategy. Honestly, this is what I thought when I was listening to these episodes for the first time. I was like, if there wasn't a video component to this podcast and it wasn't an hour long, I would have a hard time believing that they weren't AI generated. She's such a character. There's like almost nothing to her personality.
Yeah.
Like, it's that she's so excited about this thing that she is trying to relate it to you so hard, and she's consistently trying to get you to do something else, trying to get you to share, trying to get you to watch the next thing or to buy her product or whatever.
The thing I hate most that she does is she'll say this stuff that's like, I know what you're thinking, like, to the listener, being like, I know what you're thinking, I need blah, 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 blah. Like, I need to start doing this thing immediately, I need another episode to watch, whatever, in a way that I'm like, that's gotta be some sort of psychology trick she picked up at some point.
Oh.
That is like, here's how I can get people to think that they need these things. Just act like they already do. Just make them be like, oh yeah, I am thinking that. You're right, Mel. I do need to buy your protein shake. Yeah. Just real quick before we get off this point.
Yeah.
I just want to avoid being a hypocrite as well, because we were talking about like calls to action and stuff. We do a call to action at the end of our episodes, you know. We tell people give us 5 stars so we can eat. Yeah. We tell people follow. But that is like, you know, I think we're pretty upfront about we would love for people to do that so that the podcast can get to more listeners and stuff. That'd be cool and nice. We want that. We're also not trying to sort of embed it in every 10 minutes of the content. Like, that's not our primary motivation. Like, you can put calls to action on stuff because, like, they exist for a reason in a way that isn't... It feels like she's trying to worm into my brain and just, like, make me want to share this with everyone and buy all her things. And it just feels that extra level of inauthentic in a way that I'll watch other people run their ads or do their calls to action, and it is not at the same level at all.
Yeah. Just kind of 2 things on top of that. One, you know, I want to say this stuff, you know, so that you, the listener, can get like a full idea of what like listen to Mel Robbins podcast is like.
Yeah.
And this is stuff that's jumped out to us And so I think you will also notice that you're like, wow, that's a lot of call to actions. The other thing I want to say about that is that I'm pro being hypocritical. I've listened to Mel Robbins and I'm like, maybe she's a genius. Like, I gotta get, hey, listener, share this with your sister right now. If you don't have a sister, find one. Adopt a parent and make them adopt a girl, and then share this with your sister. Okay, have fun.
Sister happen.
When you're going through menopause, relatable, share this with menopause. Do it now.
Do it.
So just expect a lot more of that in the future.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff on her. So the one thing I wanted to go into really quick before we wrap up is that I think Mel Robbins, aside from everything else we've already said, is a bad interviewer. Like,
yeah, I can never decide if she's a good or bad interviewer. Honestly, I just think that the people she's talking to, because there have been episodes where I'm like, this has been sort of helpful. Like, I think I can take this away. And I'm like, I don't think that has anything to do with Mel Robbins. I think some of these people just actually have done research, and that's helpful.
Well, and I think, so I mentioned earlier a podcast called If Books Could Kill, and they're always talking about self-help podcasts or self-help books. And one of the things that they talk about is like, self-help can be good, but there's only so many ways to repackage the same ideas that we've had for the past like several thousand years.
Yeah.
And Lethem theory is essentially just a repackaging of Stoicism from like the Greeks. It's just
Literally.
like, okay, if you can't control it, don't worry. And like, that's fine. But I think a lot of the advice on the show is probably fine. Mm-hmm. But the worst part of the show is consistently whenever Mel is talking. It annoys me.
And she talks so much.
She talks a lot, but also like in a way that I think she thinks the audience is dumb. Like this is, I hate to just bash, but I'm going to do it for a little bit.
She's like, let me rephrase that.
Yes, don't rephrase it. I understood it the first time.
I heard it.
I mean, shoot off both my feet if she says one more time, oh, big words. Shut the hell up. I actually, something I really liked that I heard on the Huberman Lab podcast is one of the guests on that show said, assume the public has infinite intelligence but zero knowledge. Like, people can learn things, they just don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And I think Mel does think, this is the most negative I'm going to be, and I don't really like being this negative, but I think it's possible that Mel thinks that her audience is just like just a herd of cattle, just a bunch of idiots. And
well, I mean, yeah, that's something I was almost going to bring up earlier. Like, when I brought up it's sort of cultish in a lot of ways, of the ways that it's trying to manipulate your thinking and stuff, there is also this attitude of, like, these are enlightened individuals with knowledge the rest of the world doesn't have, in a way that is, like she is playing into all the time with her intros hyping them up and her ways of interacting with them, and then sort of reflecting on the audience and being like, oh, whoa, that's too big, words too big. When it's just, like, they're just humans who are experts in a thing and have done research. Like, it's not that big a deal. We can listen and learn and hear big
It's
words,
actually normal.
We're going to be okay.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, just the questions that she asks sometimes are on the whole fine, but sometimes like, what?
Yeah.
But are frequently actually much more, I'm annoyed because I'm like, okay, this is intended to be like clip farming, as you said. Like,
it was clip farming. There was one episode I listened to. I keep cutting you off. I just am so full of rage.
Excellent.
There's one episode I was listening to where she was the whole episode was like things that 20-somethings should know about, from this author who I think I'd heard of her book before. It's about how, like, your 20s are the most influential decade of your life, but they're really hard, etc., etc. And at one point she was like, I have thoughts on college and how people should do it, etc., etc., but that's for a different episode. And Mel was like, well, no, get into it. And she was like, no, like, clearly was trying to be like, I came to talk about this thing, and, like, I'm trying to get back on track. I want to talk about that. She's not the host, but she's doing the host job, by the way. And Mel goes, like, no, but for real, like, what are 5 things you think?
Always asking about the 5 things.
I'm like, she's just clip farming. She's just clip farming.
wants to know the 5 things. She understands. Put it in a list and people will
put
click
it in a list and you can put it on your YouTube short.
Absolutely. Yeah. On top of that, Mel will be like, when she does her like rephrasing thing, she'll be like, wow, you just made me think this. And then I'm like, Mel, you just said something entirely different than what was just said.
Yeah.
And what you said made no sense.
She just yaps. She's just saying things.
Yeah. So I wanted to get that in there. I don't.
She's not a good interviewer. The guest straight up started like doing her job for her, being like, no, but I'm here to talk about like the topic you brought me on for.
Right. If you wanted an interview podcast, go listen.
Anywhere
Go
else.
listen to like the Lex Friedman podcast, which is just a guy being like, what does this person think about this thing? What about aliens? You know?
Yeah.
But that's not this. I just wanted to get that in there. The like big mystery to me is, why is this so popular?
I think it could be something we've said before, which is your podcast is going to benefit a lot if you just have good guests. And she's got guests that actually have helpful things to say, I feel like, from what I've seen.
But it's not even just like big names. You know what I mean? It's not like a celebrity interview podcast. I think you're right.
There is also the whole clickbaitiness of it.
Yes, I think it's production but like, why do people like listen to it and go back to it and, you know, rate it 5 stars? Well,
people are desperate to fix their lives in some magical way.
I just think also a lot of people, this just doesn't bother them as much as it bothers us.
Yeah,
you know, I
also thought that. I honestly was coming in like not sure how to approach it, because I was like, maybe Sam won't be bothered by this as much as me. But I'm glad that we've proven that we are good co-hosts.
Yeah. So listener, I mean, you may like this podcast. I think I say this a lot of times. I caveat what I'm like. Yeah. We're gonna get to my bad rating in a second. Yeah. You may like it. I just would think we're really different people if that's the case. I guess what I want to say is, I think, listener, you can go through your life and be like, the Mel Robbins podcast is a bad podcast. And I will certify that as true.
Yep.
But I also don't think it's like, it's not that bad if you see someone listening to it. It's not like their brain is being filled with garbage. No. Yeah. They're just being advertised to for an amount that I find distasteful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of ultimately what I think is coming. I don't think there's anything that malicious or bad about the Mel Robbins podcast.
Yeah.
None of the advice I thought was egregious.
Yeah.
Or
she's not
harmful.
Like racist or anything, you know. There's a lot of podcasts that are. You could do worse.
Sure. Yeah. But it's just, I don't think this podcast is worth your time listening. That's where I'm going to kind of plant my flag. For me, rating wise,
I'm curious to hear what you feel.
The Mel Robbins podcast is a 2 stars out of 5, 2 pods out of cast.
I was gonna say 1.5.
Yeah, I was really close. I in our conversation, I feel very seen on her, so thank you.
I do too. I feel like this has brought us closer together.
Indeed, truly. But I don't think it's not terrible. Like, the content isn't that bad. All the production of it is great, of course. Yeah, I think that's true. What the whole thing is, the context of this podcast being so popular, right? If this was a podcast that like 50,000 people listen to, I think I would rate it higher. I think I'd be like, this is a 3-star podcast. Like, it's fine. It really is just fine. But
I don't know if that has any bearing on how I'd rate it. I would still be like, she's real and authentic and you're being sold stuff.
Yes. I think that's that context. I mean, those are like, I feel like because it's so popular, like that's why it is this way. You know what I mean? Like, she's trying to cash in on the popularity, right?
Yeah, I could see that.
I think that probably makes me, more critical. If I'm to examine my own thinking. So, yeah, it's a stinker, but we can take it out tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not the worst of the worst. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think if someone tells me that they listen to it, I'll be like, that's fine.
Yeah. I hope you heard something helpful from one of the people who wasn't Mel Robbins.
Yeah. I'm so sorry you have to listen to these episodes. It was
they're
like pulling
torturous.
teeth.
Was it
it's like
difficult for you? Because it was difficult for me.
It was, I like to try to listen to a lot more before we review.
Mm-hmm.
But even getting through 4.5, I was like, I'm pulling teeth. I really am.
Yeah.
This is so.
I really wanted to listen to more. I could only get through 3 episodes when I let myself play video games and speed it up.
Yeah. So, buyer beware. If you want to listen to Mel Robbins, do it at your own risk and at the risk of your wallet.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah. Listener, if you have a good way to put this, if you have any thoughts on Mel Robbins, if you've listened to it, or if you know of a similar sleazy or inauthentic podcast, let us know. Send us an email at podpodcastcast@gmail.com.
That feels like, why would you invite that? I guess if you want to put us through torture, you can do that.
Well, honestly,
it's in your power.
Yeah,
Is that entertaining?
I kind of, for me, I got to get the rage out some way.
That's true. It's a little cathartic.
Especially
when we agree, it feels really nice.
Yeah. And so if you want us to agree more or less, email in. Start conflict. Also, if you want us to feel joy and jubilation through the roof, rate this podcast. You're listening to it somewhere. I know you are. It's a little boop, 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 boop. Put 5 stars there. Leave us a comment if you want, I guess.
You can become part of the Podpodcastcast family.
Oh, yes. We should. Yeah. I think we should lean into it. Listener, I love you. I want to kiss you on the lips.
I do think you've said that to the listener before.
Well, I think the listeners should know how I feel about them. I am frankly tired of their constant rejection for my advances.
Someone write Sam and listener fanfic.
Yeah, you can also follow us on all the social medias. We're Podpodcastcast Pod about everywhere. And the other thing I have to say is honor. Thank you for podding with me. This was a raging delight, I'll say.
I agree. This was a raging delight. Thank you for podding with me.
And listener, thank you for listening.
We love you.
We love you.